Hello, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Great. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first monthly program of 2025. Woo! Yeah, it's good to see so many faces tonight. So many people that braved the ice during this week that basically shut down most of our county and area. So thank you so much for coming out. I'm really excited for tonight. Like normal, I'm going to do some announcements of really some stuff that's coming up, but I'm going to try to keep it super, super short because, as you know, we have not only our main speaker, Jesse Melton, who will be talking about dark skies, but we also have some special guests, one who is running a little bit late, but should be popping in hopefully during the presentation. But we have here Amber Householder, who is a local teacher, and we'll be talking about some of her experiences this summer. I'll talk more about that. But really quick, just want to share a few quick updates. Wait, why is this suddenly not working? You gotta click on the screen. Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so wanted to just send out a notice, a reminder that our annual appeal is on right now. We have about a third of our way to the goal. So thanks to those who have given so far to help us get that far towards our goal. It goes through February 28th. And yeah, programs like this, programs like many of our public programs that are free to the public are only possible because of the generosity of donors who give to our organization to build this community that we have here. So please consider giving. And again, thank you to everybody that has given so far. Registration is open for Race for the Birds. So that's going to happen on April 5th. So go ahead and mark your calendars and get excited for this special event at Broomgrass. So there are both 5K and 10K this year. And again, registration is open and hope to see you there. Something else, which will have registration open pretty soon within the month, is our summer camp. So our education team is busy dreaming and scheming about all the fun different themes for this year, getting input from camp families from last year about the kinds of activities that people would love. So on January 20th, so pretty soon, we're going to have those themes and dates finalized. So on January 20th, you'll be able to see that online. February 3rd, there's going to be early registration for PBAS members. So that's a change this year. Members will be able to register a full week early, which was definitely something that was suggested to us and we thought about based off of how things went last year. So yeah, that week later, February 10th, general registration opens, and then June 2nd, it's far, but also just around the corner, camp will begin. A final note, this is a picture taken from Cool Spring just a few days ago. And during this quiet season, so January and February, we're going to take advantage of the relative quiet time, and the Case Nature Center won't be open to the general public. So we'll be like reorganizing and planning to be busier in the spring with some potential open days for the public. In the meantime, though, you can still come by appointment only. So we're not going to necessarily have staff there all of the time. So if you want to stop by, that's great. Just kind of give us a call and send us a note so we know to expect you and we can be there. Finally, I want to announce next month's monthly program. So next month on February 13th, the monthly program, which will be here. This is the new location for all of time, maybe. The presentation will be about American kestrels, so nest box monitoring and banding. This presentation will be given by October Greenfield, who works as a wildlife habitat program manager and who was a PBAS educator. So that'll be really exciting to see where her career has taken her and learn all these wonderful things that she has been doing. So at this point, I would love to go ahead and welcome Amber Householder. And so due to the generosity of PBAS members, we were able to send 2 local school teachers to Hog Island, Maine for the teachers camp there. So discovering nature, an educator's experience, what it was like, and how it's shaped her classroom.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So I normally present in front of pre-Kers. So I'm not used to an adult audience here, but I'm very excited to tell you about my experience. As Sonia said, my name is Amber Householder, and I teach pre-K at Beddington Elementary. And this is the beautiful island that I was able to go to during the summer. And it was just an absolutely amazing experience. I think being around other teachers who are like-minded, so knowledgeable in different areas, and to gain different ideas how we can incorporate things into our classroom just brought me back feeling inspired and super energized. So I will. Awesome. So when we arrived at the island, we took a short boat ride to go over to the island. So this is the island that we went to, and that's Queen Anne's place there, and that is where we had a laboratory at the bottom, and then there were dormitories in the top. And the island had a lot of different cabins throughout the island there, but that is the one that I stayed in. So when we arrived at the island, we got to meet the other campers who were educators anywhere from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. There are some outdoor education teachers. There are some teachers that would have students come to their outdoor classrooms. There were also teachers that would go to schools and teach like in schools, like do rotations with different classes. So it was really interesting to be able to meet the different educators and learn from them. But when we arrived at the island, we got a brief history of the island, and this is very condensed. They gave us a lot of information about the island itself. So in the 18th century, and it was used for grazing livestock. And if you look on the map, a lot of the different islands in the area were also names of different animals, which was very interesting too. And then in the 20th century, that it was a summer retreat, and so there's a camp there. And in 1936, the Audubon camp was opened, and it was a place for teachers to go to. And so it was opened to have teachers come and learn about conservation, and in hopes that they would then teach that to their students. So I thought that was really interesting that that's how it started as, and each year they have an educators week, and they definitely embrace it. And then Project Puffin was initiated by Dr. Stephen Kress in order to restore the puffins on Eastern Egg Rock. And there is a picture of one of the puffins there. And Jess is going to talk a little bit more about our boat ride and experience going out to Eastern Egg Rock. So each day when we were at the camp, we had seminars that we could choose from. So there were different things, and then we could pick what we would like to learn about. And so one of the days that I was at camp, I was able to learn about the cyanotypes, and it's a photographic printing technique using the sunlight. And so we were able to go on a hike, gather some things that we wanted to print on the paper, and then our teacher had pre-treated the paper, and of course was very light sensitive, so you had to do it quickly and put your objects on the paper and then put a piece of glass over top of it. So you can see the process where I had the feather, and then after it was exposed to the sunlight for about 4 or 5 minutes, then you would put it into cold water, and then you would hang it up to dry. And it just created like really, really awesome like artwork and just memories from being at the island too. And all the items that we used were then returned to nature after we were done with them. And so this is something that we're going to incorporate into the classroom. And it's something that in pre-K we can go on a little hike around our playground, gather items, and be able to make these with kids and just have more exposure to nature, be able to talk about sunlight and just let them have fun and experience things. So another one of the things that that I chose to do, this was like an elective of sorts, is you could go on a mycology hike. And so I went on a mycology hike, and it was really interesting to just learn about how everything is connected, like how all the trees are connected and how the mushrooms kind of incorporate into the connection there. And they play a vital role. The mushrooms and fungi play a vital role in the decomposition of organisms, which then help feed all the other organisms and then food for the wildlife. As you can see here, that this was actually one time when I was just hiking around the island that I noticed there was like you could see a slight edge, and then this was the backside of the mushroom, and I just thought it was really cool, like how it kind of feeds nature too. And our professor, well, if you will call him professor, our teacher, his name was Cav. He was an outdoor education teacher. He came from California. Actually, him and his wife and his little daughter, who was absolutely adorable, Forrest. They came to the camp, and he was telling us how he became interested in mycology. And it was because one of his students was just super inquisitive. Anytime that they would go out on a hike, he would find mushrooms and ask him about it. Like, what kind of mushroom is this? And Cav was honest. He was like, I really didn't know that much about mushrooms. And I would tell him, we'll have to research it. And so I think that his love for mycology just blossomed out of his students' curiosity. And I think after coming back, thinking about, because at Beddington Elementary, we don't have a forest to go roam around and discover mushrooms. Like, how do we foster that curiosity in kids without having a forest to go and hike around in? And so my colleague and I decided that we are going to start an outdoor classroom. And so having the outdoor classroom will just give kids a space outside where they can explore and be exposed to different things that maybe they normally are not. And so it's really exciting. Probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we learned that we got a $5,000 grant. Yeah, for our outdoor classroom. And then each one of us got an additional $500 mini grant. So we're super excited to start this outdoor classroom. And I think that this experience definitely energized me to think about what can we do, in our schools and in our classes. And then we also have the experience of hiking out to a cabin. It's like deep on the island where they have an artist in residence. Usually, seems like about 3 artists throughout the season that are able to stay at the island and just gather inspiration. And so this was the artist. Her name is Bryant Holdenbach, and she's an environmental artist. And she gets objects, recycled objects, and makes beautiful artwork out of them. And what she was working on at the island was a installation that she called Smack. It's jellyfish that were made out of marine debris. So things that she gathered, friends knew she was working on this project, they would gather a fishing line and then made these beautiful jellyfish out of them. And then it's called smack because a group of jellyfish, that's what you call a group of jellyfish, is smack. So that's the reason she named her exhibit smack. So I think this was another thing that we can do in the classroom too, that show kids how we can use recycled items to make different things out of. And then also, especially at our school, we're a Title I school, so there are families who want to be involved that maybe can't be involved financially, and asking them, like, send in things that you would normally throw away as a way to help our classroom create a project. Really instills a sense of community in our classroom and involvement. So that is something that I am going to do, is have the kids work on an art project with recycled items. So she was a really awesome and interesting lady. And with the intertidal exploration, we had a classroom session where they sat us down and showed us the chart of what to look for and in the different zones. So the splash zone, different things that you could find, and they went zone by zone, showing us what we could find. And then we actually went out during low tide, and we were able to explore and find these things. And so that was a ton of fun. There were nets, and we would pull the things up, and with the teachers there showing us, especially the things that are on the rock, that just being able to have their expertise, because sometimes I didn't know what I was looking at, and they were really excited and were able to explain what it is that you were discovering. So I think these are just a few things that I was able to experience on our journey. And Miss Jessica, perfect timing, she's going to come and talk about some other things. This is, just push the
Green crab soup.
the green. Oh, yes, the green crab soup. So the green crabs that are invasive, the kitchen at Hog Island made them into soup. And
We were-
amazing.
Yeah, we were encouraged to catch
Yeah.
any of them, from the smallest to the largest,
And bring them
and
back.
bring them back. So they were no longer returned. But they didn't want to waste them because they are a natural resource. So they got quite literally put into our dinner for that night. And I mean, it was quite literally as close to farm to table, ocean to table as you could get. It was amazing. So yeah, I was like, you're like,
Yeah.
this is the best part, the green crabs.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so as Amber said, my name is Jessica Ramey. I am a middle school science and special education teacher. Last year spent a year doing 7th grade science. This year I am now a co-teach for 6th grade. So I teach social studies, science, and math. I'm all over the place. This opportunity was amazing because, especially going into where I knew I was going to be doing math predominantly, 3 of my classes are math this year. I was really curious to see how I was going to be able to take this and make it work in that, because it is very unique. So some of the highlights for me were nature journaling, the Merlin Bird ID app. I'd never heard of it. Mindfulness and breath work. The geology was just amazing. And then of course, puffins. I mean, puffins. So nature journaling has actually become a personal passion. In fact, I actually brought my nature journal with me if anybody wanted to look at it, because so we had several sessions on nature journaling, whether it was journaling the journey, where it was looking at your own personal journey, whether it's in nature, in life, whatever, as a method of catharsis and for regulation. We were also had several on actually using it to help you get closer to nature, to focus on what nature is able to teach you and also help you to slow down, which, given how very frantic paced everything is, slowing down is something that I needed to be reminded to do. So the first picture you have here is actually some of the resources that they gave us. But this, both of these are from the DC Botanical Garden. These were taken by my cell phone. And then this is an actual image coming out of the journal that I have up here. The reason why I liked the nature journaling and why it actually is still being used today for me is, again, it was slowing myself down. So now even with my students in my math classes, I use one of the nature journaling prompts. I see, I think, I wonder. So I'll put a problem up on the board for math that I've never shown them. And I just tell the kids, I just want you to tell me anything you see. What do you see in this problem? And we start filling out our journals for math based on the idea of observing, comparing and contrasting it to other problems we've seen, drawing a diagram, writing down things that we see are happening. Then we go into the I think. What do you think might be going on? What do you think this problem might be trying to get us to do? Yes, how are we going to solve it? What might we start with? What might we end with? Explain to me what you're thinking at this point. Usually at about here, I take a minute to give a quick mini lesson on any parts that I know might be a little challenging, whether it's we're introducing exponents, whether it's getting kids to understand that having the letter Z in the middle of a math problem isn't scary, it's just a missing number. And then I ask them to go back and rethink about what they see, rethink about what they're observing and what they're thinking about at that point. Then I ask them to go into an I wonder. What questions do you have about what we're doing? What do you wonder about why or how? Tell me the what ifs that you see. At this point, we'll work a problem together. We'll go through it. We'll do out several steps. I will give them a written guide to what we're doing. And then I ask them to go back and start at the beginning again. And we use this, and this has become, for my special education students, most of my students are operating and working, they're 7th graders. They are operating or working at anywhere between kindergarten and 2nd grade readiness level for math. They are so far off where they're supposed to be that the math I'm teaching them feels almost impossible. But by doing this, what was once impossible now becomes at least less scary, because now we're able to get into it without having to think about it as math. Now we can think about it as just individual components. But this has also been turned into this spring. We applied for, haven't gotten it yet. We're hoping to get a grant that is going to allow our school to actually use funding to get a nature journaling club set up. That's my ultimate goal, would be for us to actually have a operating, functioning nature club for us kids. My students in particular, my science classes, weekly ask me if I'm going to bring in my journal this week. Can you bring it in? Can you show us what you drew this week? Can you show us what you did this week? And I'm like, do you know I don't go on trips every week, right? There's a point where I stay home. Okay, so then the Merlin Bird ID app, I literally walked into this camp going, I am surrounded by people who know birds. I know a bird has wings and a beak. I don't know anything else. I couldn't tell you what it was that was flying past me. They were all freaking out. They were naming things, and I'm staring at them all going, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it was making me crazy. So one of the teachers, professors, counselors, whatever you want to call them, showed me this app. Okay, I am a birder now, but I am not a birder by sight. I still have no idea what I'm looking at. I still cannot use the binoculars to find the bird fast enough to have any idea what I'm looking at. However, I would say probably 3 or 4 times a week, I go outside and sit for 10 minutes with this app open on my phone, just recording the sounds around me, and it's matching the bird's calls to a database run by Cornell Bird Laboratory. And it's giving me its best guess of what I'm hearing. Okay, I now can identify 5 birds on site. Okay, I'm proud of myself. I realize that's not huge, but I am stinking proud of myself. I can hear the song and I know what to look for. I know roughly where to look for them. But then it went one step further. I came home and I was doing this, and this is my 10-year-old son. He took this and he decided to do his own science fair project with it. And he wrote his own project. Basically, he had my mother who lives in Harpers Ferry, myself, my sister who lives in Warwick, Rhode Island, and my other sister who lives in Frederick, Maryland. Every day for a week, got up, set their phone outside with this app on to record for 10 minutes. And he made a guess that he thought his grandmother's house was gonna have the most birds. He did the research on what birds needed for their backgrounds, used actually a ton of Audubon stuff actually on how to make your backyards better for birds. He took first place as a fourth grader. This is his second time ever doing science fair. This is what one funding me did, was you now have inspired this little young man who now is gung-ho next year. He actually has another project in mind around this one. And I'm thrilled. So you didn't just impact me, you impacted him as well. So it does keep going. Okay, so moving on to mindfulness and breath work. So this entire camp, there were several people there who kept reminding me that it's okay to slow down, that nature's not in a hurry. Like, you don't have to be in a hurry. We spent, probably, I want to say that Kayla was 3 or 4 times she did. There was a young woman there who was one of the counselors. Her name was Kayla, and she did 3 or 4 sessions with us, where it was either first thing in the morning, in the evening, where she actually has a runs a YouTube channel, where she is teaching at an outdoor school. And she has recorded some of her prompts that she uses with her students on how to slow down, how to do mindful breathing, how to do breathing exercises. It was very, very useful for me. It's something that I'm still doing, but it goes even better than that. I now have students who, in particular, after lunch, they come back from lunch as 6th graders off the wall. They are so amped up from 35 minutes of being able to run around a gym, run around a cafeteria. They're able to get up and talk to all their friends. They are so dysregulated. They're so up in energy that I actually started teaching them some of the stuff that Kayla taught us, the Be a Tree. Sitting in their chair and really feeling their feet sinking into the ground, feeling their body sinking into their chair, feeling themselves root down deep, and then stretching their backs up and feeling themselves grow tall in their seats to like the crown of the tree going up. They all looked at me like I was nuts when I first started with this stuff. I also taught them box breathing and thinking about breathing in the air, blowing away the clouds. I now have students who come to me and will say, can we please start class today being a tree or breathing? They ask me to do this because they know when they come back, they're so up and the hallways are so up and their classmates are so up that they're feeling stressed and anxious and are not able to shift into learning science. They're not able to shift into learning in the classroom. But 5 minutes of being a tree, 5 minutes of box breathing, and our class goes down, calm. They're ready to refocus. They're ready for and centered enough to be able to move forward. So while it may not be completely nature-based, it was amazing to have this experience. And this center picture was probably one of my favorite days on the island. Me and 2 other of the campers were not physically fit enough to go on a 5-mile hike in 90+ degree weather. Nope, it was like the second to last day. I was exhausted. So us and 2 of the teachers went on a shorter hike. It was only about 2 miles. But halfway point, there is this amazing area of the forest that has all these mosses on the ground that, because it had rained the night before, were like super plump and lush. And we did this thing called forest bathing, where we quite literally got off the trail, laid down on the moss and we just laid there for like 45 minutes in just total silence and just let ourselves be. I really wish I could give this to more people because this was honestly profound and amazing. Nothing happened. We just sat and enjoyed. It was so peaceful. And it was really profound because you find yourself after 5 minutes being like, okay, I'm kind of bored. And after 10 minutes, you're like, all right, I'm okay with this. By 30 minutes, I was like, okay, we need to do this more often. By 45, I was like, please don't make me leave. I'm really like, I really don't want to leave this spot. This is amazing. So I would, if you ever get a chance to forest bathe, I would recommend that to anyone. That was amazing. Okay, so then the geology. Harbor Island, Hog Island had some of the most amazing geology. There were so many areas where between coastal erosion, between thrust uplift, where entire layers of sedimentary rock that should be going this way were quite literally standing on it. And you could look down in a minute. It almost looked like you were looking at the top of a loaf of bread. It was so awesome. And inside of each of these layers, you would find all sorts of recrystallized minerals. And they oftentimes had hunks of garnets and hunks of a bunch of different, almost like stalactite, stalagmite type items. And then we also got to go out to, this is from Harbor Island. And Harbor Island, apparently, after the igneous rock of granite had formed, at some point in its history, it had undergone a rather large forest fire of some sort, something that would have been intense and would have burned for a long period of time. And the reason why I mentioned that is because I walked around for an entire week thinking that was a garnet. I really kept thinking, I was finding, I'm like, why isn't Maine being like gem mined for garnets? Like this is, I mean, that thing is almost as big as my thumb. Come to find out it has absolutely nothing to do with garnets. It's actually what happens to granite when a fire has hit it. It quite literally semi-melts and recrystallizes, and you get these blood red crystal stones that are actually granite with ash trapped inside. I was completely blown away. The gentleman who was talking to me kept laughing because I was like, are you sure? That's like, I'm like, that is so, it looks so much like garnet. It wasn't. The other thing that was really fascinating is, so this entire cliff face right here is actually about 20 feet overhanging the underlying supports. Actually kind of terrifying when you walk around the edge and suddenly realize you've been standing over an open void. But underneath us, there were cormorants that were using that area as like a haul out because it was sheltered from above and they didn't have to worry about the eagles coming in. So they loved it. I kind of had a nausea moment, but, and then you also were able to look out at a couple of the haul outs out here where seals were present, and with the binoculars, you actually were able to see them up close. Then my last one, puffins. Okay, I didn't know what a puffin was when I went on this. Everybody was freaking out about puffins. I didn't know what a puffin was. I heard of puffins, but I never actually like looked up what a puffin was. These things are the cutest thing ever when they fly. They look like a football. They, honest to God, look like a football. But they were amazing. We actually, while we were out there, we got to see the scientists in the blinds as they're doing the counts. And they were quite literally out there sitting the entire time we were there, with these massive field binoculars, counting the puffins, counting the cormorants. What was the other bird that they had us looking at? The Arctic tern was one.
Several
Terns, yeah. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name of the bird. But yeah, so the puffins were amazing. There were several times where they had absolutely no fear of us. There were several times they were within 5 to 10 feet of the boat, just zooming past us. And I just remember thinking, oh my God. But I will also say, if you've never heard a puffin make its call, I invite you to think about a donkey. They are the most obnoxious sounding birds. This is one of the birds that now on hearing it, I will be able to identify the rest of my life. So but that was mine. I will move on because I know that you guys have other things to do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, especially all the ways that this has really impacted not just you, but your students, your kids, and the way it's spreading out and impacting so many. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to introduce Jesse in a quick moment, but first I have a poll for you because this is a new place for us. I'm curious, do you like the lights? We are thinking that too. You want to get that real quick? Yeah, thanks. Okay, that's the end of that poll. And so I don't think that we can do that. I can only pull it up or down. Can't make that go away entirely. So just that little bit of imperfection, but hopefully one we can live with. And then I was going to say something else really quick. What was it? Completely left my brain. I'm sorry. But okay, so I will introduce Jesse. So Jesse Melton is an avid outdoors enthusiast, Appalachian Trail through hiker, fisherman, amateur astronomer, and original member of the Bolivar Harpers Ferry Dark Sky. So thank you and welcome. I remember what it was. I wanted to just emphasize, take all the time you need, leave whenever you need, right? We don't have to be done at 8. And just a reminder that this is always recorded and it'll be available online. So if you have to leave early and you don't want to miss anything, you don't have to. Okay.
All right, here we go. So following Hog Island is a pretty hard sell. It's a pretty great place. We actually went there with my family in August for family camp. It was a different experience than these folks had, but it was tremendous. I wasn't really planning on speaking about that tonight. I just wanted to mention it. Annie Young told us about Hog Island at a monarch tagging event at Cool Spring Preserve. And I don't think she had any idea how much that 5-minute conversation would change our lives. So that Hog Island is a truly magical place. I've done a lot of travel, a lot of adventure, and it's way up there on my list of experiences. And for a family trip, it's by far the most amazing place I've ever been. Sonia, I'm sure, can point you at all the information you want about it. And, you know, they have things for educators, for families, for individuals, all age groups and interests. Please do just look at what they have to offer and think about going. You know, it's up there in Maine, so it's perfect. And, you know, all the other stuff goes along with it. But please do check it out. It's a fantastic place. Oh, that was my hand. All right. So my name is Jesse Melton. I'm an advocate with the Bolivar Harpers Ferry Dark Sky chapter. As Sonia mentioned, I'm a Appalachian Trail through hiker, backcountry fisherman, and amateur astronomer. I grew up in East Tennessee, which gave me more than this outrageous accent. It gave me the opportunity to really see the night sky like it's supposed to be. When I was younger, my father ran a community astronomy program, and that's what really sparked my interest in all this. I was always looking up at the sky anyway, and I became acutely aware over time of what I was no longer able to see as more and more lights were put up. And, you know, as I got older and started to travel, it really struck me as how unfair it was what so many people never got to see going on over their heads all the time. And something should have been done about it. And that's ultimately what led me to Dark Sky. And here tonight to tell you guys what we can all do about it to try to reclaim our night skies. So about the organization, Dark Sky is a global organization with chapters in 22 countries. There are about 2,000 advocates, folks like me, who go around and advance responsible lighting through policy positions, public education, scientific research, and partnerships with public and private organizations. So that's the official pitch. This is more fun stuff. So this picture was taken at Watauga State Park, and it's here in West Virginia. And if you haven't been, you should. It's a tremendous park. It's also an accredited international dark sky place. Those are special places all around the world that preserve and protect the night sky through responsible lighting policies and, dark sky lighting, which we'll talk about later. It's a pretty spectacular photo, and light pollution prevents most people from seeing anything like this from their home. You should be able to, but we can't. In the United States, 99% of the population lives under a light polluted sky. Globally, only 2 out of 10 people can see the Milky Way. And that's really bad. There's this tremendous thing that played a huge role in all the classical mythologies and cultures. The Milky Way, the dark highway, that's where the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Native Americans all wrote stories about it, and was a big thing for them for thousands of years. And the last 150 years, we've lost it. There's been several generations of people who have never seen that, and you should be able to. And it's not the only thing we can't see because of poorly controlled lighting. There's other planets, there's nebula, there's comets, meteors, spacecraft, which are really cool. I think, that you can see other people and things zooming around up there. And then sometimes even the Northern Lights. We were able to see those this summer here a few times, which is a pretty neat thing. And it's a whole lot closer than Alaska. What is light pollution? And it seems pretty straightforward, and there is an official definition. It's human-made alteration of outdoor light levels from those occurring naturally. But I prefer my definition there on the screen. On the screen there at the bottom is a thing called the Bortle scale. And it's a way astronomers rank light pollution. Everything should look like over there, Bortle 1 on the left side of the screen. And here in this general area, we're in area 4 and 5 for the most part. Tonight you're kind of bumping over towards a 3. It's based on specific objects that you can see with the naked eye at night. So if you can't see these objects, that's how they rate that. But we're usually at a 4 or 5, and the majority of people in the world live in a 6 or 7, and in big urban areas, you're at 8 and 9, and you don't have any idea what goes on up there. There's the sun, and then there's the moon, and everything else is weird. And it's actually kind of funny online, whenever there's something that happens with the night sky that makes people actually look up at it for the first time, you get all the conspiracy weirdos come out, and because they've never seen any of this stuff, they've just never looked, but it's going on all the time. The light pollution comes in a variety of flavors, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And some of the sources are localized and have solutions that are individualized, things you can do at home. Others are, move this here, so I'll stop touching that. Others require larger scale solutions and require other people to act and get involved. And on top of these things, there are environmental factors that amplify the light pollution. They're kind of out of our control, but they're an issue and they deserve mention. The 3 main types of light pollution: sky glow, glare, and light trespass. Over there, you see, all light is not equal. The light has a wide variety of qualities and colors, and all those characteristics impact their effect on light pollution. And more light does not equal more visibility. In fact, it's often the opposite. Sky glow is the most commonly recognized type of light pollution. When you look out over the horizon and you see that big orangey gray glow over a city or airport or factory, that's sky glow. And you're seeing less of the night sky than you should. You're experiencing light pollution. That glowing dome, it's called a light dome. And the effects are pretty far ranging. At a small to decent sized city like Frederick, Maryland, the light dome is visible at ground level from about 30 miles away. In a large city like Los Angeles, that's 200 miles away. And all this, everything that you see on the screen is affected by that light dome, just right down there at the bottom, but up here, you're still seeing less. The chart over there on the left shows the effect of color on the apparent brightness of a light dome. Warmer light, orangey lights, they reduce the apparent brightness of light domes and light pollution overall. And LEDs, the white lights that's so popular now, it is not good for light pollution. And that is a big part of why, in the last 20 years, we've more than doubled the general apparent light pollution in the sky in the United States. And it's largely due to these super bright, nice white lights. They don't have to impact our night sky to make us where we can see. Those two things are separate. And glare is the other big type of light pollution. And I like the formal definition here. It's visual conditions in which there is excessive contrast or inappropriate distribution of light sources that disturbs the observer or limits the ability to distinguish objects and details. All that means it's light shining right in your eyes. And you can break it down further into 3 categories here. We've got disability glare, discomfort glare, and reflection glare. Disability glare is what you get from headlights coming down the road or a flashlight right in your eyes. And it's uncomfortable. It's also dangerous. Car accidents, falls are probably the most common safety issue with disability lighting, rocks and holes, and you just fall right in them. People do get hurt. Discomfort glare doesn't cause momentary blindness like disability glare, but it's really uncomfortable. It's the light in the corner of your eye, the light coming from a neighbor's yard, and more than anything, it causes emotional distress. And for me, it causes mostly anger, but it's always right there in the corner of my eye when I'm trying to read. And reflection glare. Reflection glare is just light reflected off a surface, impairs the ability to see well, windows, mirrors, polished surfaces, things like that. Glare can often be resolved just by moving where you're sitting, shielding the offending light, or moving the reflecting object. When you can control the light source, glare is the easiest kind of light pollution to mitigate. When you can't control it, it becomes something else called light trespass. You can see that's just a sampling of where it all comes from. And it's light that is not useful, and it's coming onto your space, on your property, and often into your property. We have a friendly neighborhood fire station, and their light at the house lights up my son's room. It's awesome. We don't have to turn a light on at night to read. The light trespass contributes to sky glow and glare, but it's in its own category because it has an identifiable source. And so it has a solution that's usually somebody else, and you're going to have to confront them some way to address it. And that's a big thing, and I deal with it, and it's the fire department. I just kind of let it go. I don't want to make them mad, right? But, the Dark Sky website has a lot of really useful templates and tools to help start those conversations with neighbors and nuisance lighting. On the website, there are letters specifically to deal with municipal lighting issues from light trespass and, neighbors. You can see here for useful light, that's all you need. All the other stuff there is entirely unnecessary, and it's damaging our views of the night sky and our health. And it all comes together and gets made worse by nature. This is the environmental aspects of amplification of light pollution. The National Park Service says that these factors, it's rain and snow and particulate in the air from industrial and agricultural activities, and even pollen, can increase the apparent light pollution by up to 1,000 times. And that's an awful lot. I mean, you can see there, it's a completely different picture just because all the light from that low cloud cover there. And it's not really anybody's fault for the most part, but it does deserve a mention. If you've got a low level of light pollution to begin with, the environmental factors aren't going to be a big deal. But if you've got a high degree of light pollution, the environmental factors are going to be a really big deal and make it all seem worse. And it's all cumulative. All those different kinds of lights add up to a cumulative effect, amplified by environmental factors. All those little lights working together reduce our visibility, and that's really important, that more light is not good, is not necessarily going to make you see better. We need smart light and good light, not just more. Every single light that we can turn off or use wisely cuts down on this cumulative effect. And, even if it's a Christmas light, there's one Christmas light on your tree, it's this little tiny light. Well, that light's still out there. And if you put 500 more lights on it, all that light is still out there. So every single light that you can reduce the pollution of is good. And the consequences of light pollution, there's no real better graphic than that. It's such a huge, giant, pervasive problem. Light pollution affects almost every single thing we do. I wouldn't look too hard at that, it'll drive you insane. But I've tried to break it down in the next few slides into some broad categories with some heartstring strumming examples, like sea turtles, birds, plants, and pollinators, and climate change. Sea turtles are probably the most well-known victim of light pollution. Their plight has been really well publicized in the past few years. The bright onshore lighting confuses the mother turtles coming in to lay their eggs, and it confuses the baby turtles who think they're going out to sea and often end up on the road with cars where there's no real chance. The numbers are not really great because when a car runs over a baby sea turtle, there's not a whole lot left to count. But, it's in the millions of sea turtles in Florida alone are run over every year. And, the picture kind of answers a question that people often ask about how does a turtle confuse a street light in the sun? And it's a pretty easy mistake to make, especially if you're just a tiny little turtle just born. That's not a lot different. And, Dark Sky International, this group, they have worked with lighting manufacturers and policymakers. Some places in Florida have implemented these, and it's sea turtle sensitive lighting, which we'll talk more about, but it has a limited color spectrum, and they help point the lights not where the turtles need them, where the people need it. And it's better for everybody. So you guys may know this as Audubon folks, but here in the US, 80% of the migratory bird species migrate at night. And so that's a lot of birds. They use the night sky to navigate by, and they can become confused by unshielded ground lighting. You can't tell the difference between what's supposed to be in the sky, what's on the ground. That leaves some of them stuck in a holding pattern. They don't know what to do, so they just fly around in a circle all night until they end up like this little guy on the left, who is just absolutely exhausted. He landed without access to food or water and doesn't have the energy to fly on. It's not great. Volunteers go around and pick them up, but it's a tremendous number of animals, and picking them up and helping them is not really a solution. The photo is the 2024 Bird Photographer of the Year award winner, and it's 4,000 birds that died from impact with buildings in Canada. In the US alone, the impact mortality statistics for birds, the most conservative estimates are about 300 million birds a year are killed in collisions with buildings and other man-made structures. Most of the studies have a much higher number of around 1 billion birds. And that's 31 birds a second. Those 4,000 birds in that picture, that happens every 133 seconds. That's a little over 2 minutes. And, turning the lights off at night, controlling light pollution is the best way to address that. It's a pretty easy fix. Trees and plants, pollinators, light at the wrong time, light the wrong color, really, really affects plants. The inhibited metabolism, they lose their ability to create sugar via photosynthesis. It's kind of like if you left your car running all the time. You poured some gas in there, kept the car running. It'll run, but it loses efficiency and it can't do everything that it's supposed to, and it won't have as long of a service life. The abbreviated dormancy, the plants get confused. They don't know when they should go into their dormant state. So they'll stay in their softer, fruity state far later than they should. It opens them up to damage by cold winter weather. The disrupted phenology, off-cycle lighting causes premature blooming or late blooming. It's down here. Nothing works, and that has the tack-on effect of all the animals that feed off these plants and live in them and lay eggs in them. All those cycles, all those chains are broken when the off-cycle lighting is constant. You can see in this tree up here, there's a bunch of examples like this, but this tree is, half of it's confused that it has kept those leaves because it thinks it's still summer, because it's getting direct light from that street light. And, altered leaf development is a big part of this. The leaves become thicker and tougher with exposure to light. And, extended duration exposure to light is a method that horticulturists use to introduce epigenetic changes to the plants and create new alterations in the phenotypes and new characteristics in the plants. They're forcing mutations in the greenhouse, and that's okay, that's cool. But it's not so cool when it's outside with wild plants. We're forcing these plants to become new things that don't really get along with anything. And all those creatures that live on it can't get along with them either. The sunflowers are a popular example. They're when they're overexposed to light, they don't open all the way, and the pollinators can't get in there. So they don't have enough pollen to take back home. The plants don't bloom. There's year after year after year, the problem just stacks up when pollination can't take place. Energy waste and climate change. 99% of outdoor lighting is wasted illuminating nothing. That's a tremendous amount of energy. It's 380 terawatt hours. That's a lot of zeros. I actually wrote it out and was trying to do some back of the napkin math so I could look cool. That's too many zeros to mess with. You can take your pick from any of those graphics, and there's nothing good up there. But there are opportunities. The number that 380 terawatt hours is enough energy to power 35 million homes. And it's a tremendously huge number. It's hard to really understand. But we could power the home for every single homeless person in America and still have enough energy for 34.3 million homes. Another way we could look at that is half of the coal plants in the United States are doing nothing but powering wasted light. So we could get rid of half of them. And, burning coal is a major, major factor in climate change. Security is the most commonly cited justification for wasteful lighting. People fear the dark or what's in the dark, but they don't really think about what the lights are hiding, maybe the things they're afraid of. You can see in the picture, just by blocking the light, you can see the people that are there hiding. And, that's a pretty easy solution too. As a guideline, if you can see the bulb on a security light, it's creating insecurity. It's not doing its job. You should not be able to see the light bulb in a security light. They should be shielded, and they should only come on when they're needed. Like with a motion controller, such in human health. And it's a big old mess. The circadian rhythms are disrupted from off-cycle lighting, obesity and all kinds of bad stuff. There's decreased melatonin production, which we actually experience indoors. We create our own light pollution inside with our computer screens and stuff at night. And the safety, falls, and accidents, the decreased melatonin production is a pretty big deal, especially if you've got kids or you just can't sleep. The looking at your screens and your TVs late at night, it really does a number on your brain. Your brain can't tell the difference between this light and the sunlight. It thinks you're outside. It thinks you need to be awake. And we went in my house, we put in really warm colored lighting all through the house. We got rid of the really bright, the white lights, and we installed warmer lights. Makes me look much prettier. And it also had a noticeable effect on everybody in the house. And I got some of those blue blocker glasses, and they really work. You should try them. You do have a light pollution problem in your own home, even if you don't know it. And they're cheap, try them. And if you like them, you can get some fancier ones. And everything we've talked about is for the most part, or entirely, it's all preventable. Let's talk about how we do that. It's responsible outdoor lighting. When we talk about how bad lighting is and what all that can mean for us, what we're really talking about is the difference between responsible and irresponsible light. Nobody's arguing that we shouldn't have light. We have to have it. And it allows us to see everything we want to and we need to in an energy efficient, ecologically sensitive, and safe way. And what we're going to talk about in just a minute are the only thing standing between this and that view over there. This was in 2003, I think, in Massachusetts. There was a power outage, and the house here is running on generator, but everything else, the city was out of power. So all this light disappeared. And this is what's up there. We should all be able to see that. And there's not much standing in between us and that, except just being responsible for the way we use light. And International Dark Sky has put together these 5 principles, this framework for responsible outdoor lighting. And none of this is hard. It's useful. Why is the light there? Does it really need to be there? It should have a purpose, and you should know what the purpose is. I say that with a smile, but a lot of people don't. There's just a light, and they accept this light, and nobody ever asks what's it illuminating, what's its purpose. Targeted, it should only be lighting up what it's supposed to. Most lights in some way, shape, form, or fashion, you can move them around or shield them, which is the easiest thing to do for existing light fixtures. You don't have to replace a light fixture if you don't want to. There are a lot of creative, aesthetically pleasing ways to shield a light. Controlled lighting, low-level lighting, it shouldn't be any brighter than it needs to be. That's all it needs to be. If you can see what you need to see, it's bright enough. Control mechanisms, they're motion detectors and timers. And the warmer color, I think you may remember when we talked about the sky glow, there was the graph that showed the effect of light color on the brightness of the sky dome. Warmer colored light is going to make everything happier. It's a key component of controlling light pollution. It's expressed in kelvins, and on the package they'll say light color temperature, 3000 K or 4000 K or 7000 K. Lower is better. It's going to be orangey. The higher the number, the whiter the light is going to become. And in all that, Dark Sky is a program with retailers and manufacturers where they develop light that complies with those 5 principles and helps us reduce light pollution. On the website is a searchable database. You can find all that on the darksky.org website, and you can search by whatever parameters you want to. And one thing that's important to notice is greenwashing. I'm sure you guys probably heard that term, and it's very prevalent in the lighting industry. You need to, that seal really is important. There's all kinds of verbiage and all kinds of buzzwords in the literature. If it doesn't have that seal, it's not really doing what we want it to do. These things don't cost any more money. They're in the same price range as any other fixture with the same amount of light output. You just have to look for the thing, for the seal. And like I said, they're all on there. All the big box stores carry them. If they don't have them in stock, it's 2 days away. And they also have a bunch of other programs so that we can see how these 5 principles of outdoor lighting work, and where we can go and enjoy the night sky if it's not available where you currently are. Places, lodging, sports lighting, turtle, sensitive lighting. These are all pretty straightforward things. We talked about the turtle sensitive lighting. Places and lodging we'll get to, but the sports lighting, I don't know if it really applies to anybody in here, but you should keep it in the back of your mind next time, you see that Shepherd's going to build a new ball field somewhere, and hit them up and let them know that Dark Sky has this program out there, and they work with the people doing the field development and to build world-class ball fields, sporting fields that are dark sky compliant, and they don't make the light pollution problem worse. Like I said, just keep that in the back of your mind in case something comes up in the news in the future. The international dark sky places are special places that preserve and protect the dark sky through responsible lighting, the implementation of those 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting, and dark sky approved lighting. There are a couple hundred of them in 22 countries all over the world. And fortunately, there's one right here in West Virginia. There's actually 2, but I've only been to this one, so I'm just going to talk about it. This is Watauga State Park, and you may remember I showed a picture of that at the beginning, and that's another picture over there on the left. That's the observation tower that's available to the campers and lodgers there at the park. It's a tremendous park. They have these 3 large open areas on the mountain and one down on the lake, and they're all facing different parts of the sky, so you can see, whatever you want to look at up there. And they have benches put around that they're placed so you can sit there all night and you feel like you're up there all by yourself, even if you're not. You can see here on both of these, this is point source light. It's a Landsat image of point source light pollution that's visible from space. And the bottom is a light dome image visible from space, luminosity map. And the star there, you can see where Watauga is. It's genuinely in a dark sky place. The other dark sky places in the area, there's Green Bank Telescope, which is fun. Even if you don't like the sky, the telescope's cool. There's a whole slew of different types of dark sky places in West Virginia, and you can see that all on the Dark Sky website. All these places are available too. There's communities, lodging, parks, reserves, sanctuaries, and urban night spaces. We kind of hit on all these, but the sanctuaries I want to mention, well, the parks and sanctuaries. Parks, like Watauga, a dark sky park is a dark sky place, but it has education element. So, you can go there and with your kids and people, and they'll show you the night sky. They have astronomy programs and dark sky programs. And the sanctuaries are a special thing. They are ecologically and conservationally sensitive areas. And they're all around the world, and they represent one of the biggest problems in conservation in general. And that's raising awareness and ensuring funding without flooding the place with tourists who don't understand the needs of the site. And these sanctuaries, the dark sky sanctuaries, they target a very specific audience, and it's mostly you guys, the folks who understand, what, you just know what not to do. And I encourage you to go on the Dark Sky website and see what these places are that you can go visit. There's a bunch here. There's in Virginia, within just a couple of hours, you can see a whole new world up there. If you need to make any wishes, the dark sky is the place, because shooting stars are not rare. They're all the time. And you go there and you can make all the wishes you like. And on the darksky.org website, it's an endless amount of information. I've spent so many hours on there, and I've barely scratched the surface. There's outreach and education materials, how-to guides on how to deal with the lighting you have. in the light problem that you may have. There's ordinance development tools, which I don't know if that applies to anybody in here, but you know, if you're on a town planning board or town council, or just generally concerned about lighting ordinances in town, Dark Sky has a variety of templates and tools available on there to kind of kickstart that and show what other people have done successfully in the past. The activities for families is kind of fun. You know, that's mostly for smaller kids, but you know, it gets them involved, seeing where light pollution is at in their house and outside. And then communication templates for dealing with the municipal and neighborhood nuisance lights. And, you know, I just want to close with saying that Earth has been operating on this fixed, reliable day-night cycle for billions of years. In the last 150 years, we have completely destabilized that cycle in almost every place on the planet. There are real measurable consequences to all that. And the upshot of all this is that the side effects, the consequences of light pollution go away as soon as you turn off the lights. Unlike so many other kinds of pollutants, the light pollution only lasts as long as the lights are on and used irresponsibly. The first step in that is educating people, letting them know what they can do and with what you've got. And then, you know, the resources online, you know, and if you want to explore the dark sky lighting, those things are all out there. And so is the Bolivar Harpers Ferry Dark Sky chapter. You know, we meet every month in Bolivar. We're kind of small. We're moving on. We have an ordinance working with Harpers Ferry and hopefully in Bolivar. And we invite you all to come. You know, it's a, like I said, it's a small group, but we're all really nice and friendly, and we're all really passionate about the night sky. And I would like to thank Sonia and Potomac Valley for contacting us and inviting us out to speak. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, or at least tell you a good lie. Yep. All right. Thank you.
And if there's any questions for our teachers as well, we're also happy to take those. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight and hope to see you next month.